Deep in the cold darkness of the Atlantic, the Titanic still rests. Silent, frozen, and filled with stories that have never been fully told. More than 110 years have passed, yet human light has only touched a small part of this colossal ship. But today, we will open its doors, one room at a time, stepping into the very spaces that witnessed the final night of 1912. Every room is a fragment of memory, every corner a mystery waiting to be uncovered. And with each step forward, we descend deeper into the heart of one of history's greatest tragedies. So take a breath, steady yourself, because the journey to explore the Titanic truly begins now. We begin our descent into the Titanic's forgotten world at first-class stateroom B-52, once a haven of comfort and privilege, now a silent chamber preserved by darkness and time. More than a century ago, this room embodied the height of luxury at sea. Polished wood panels, soft electric light, velvet bedding, a private washroom. Everything here was created for passengers who expected elegance in every detail. But today, the ocean has rewritten the room entirely. The walls, once warm with golden tones, are now swallowed by rust and mineral blooms. The ceiling has collapsed inward, forming twisted ribs of metal that stretch like the bones of a long-dead creature. Where fine furniture once stood, only scattered debris remains, fused together by pressure and salt. The bed frame lies distorted, springs peek through like exposed nerves. A lone porcelain drawer still hangs open, its contents dissolved long ago. As our lights sweep across the cabin, dust-like particles drift through the water, creating the illusion of snow falling in slow motion. Every movement disturbs a century of stillness. Every corner carries the ghost of what life used to be here. There are traces of the people who once occupied B-52, a metal coat hook still clinging to the wall, a shattered mirror that no longer reflects anything, and fragments of personal belongings buried in silt, each one a frozen moment from the night the Titanic vanished beneath the waves. Standing before this stateroom is like staring into a snapshot of 1912, a space where luxury and tragedy collided in a single instant. This is not just a room. It is a time capsule, a preserved memory of fear, hope, and unanswered questions. And as we drift deeper inside, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Everything left in B-52 tells a story, but none of its voices ever made it back to the surface. The bridge and wheelhouse, the very heart of the ship's command. More than a century ago, this was a place filled with precision and discipline. Officers moved with confidence. Orders echoed across the open deck. The great ship obeyed every turn of the wheel. But now, the bridge is a graveyard of twisted steel and drifting silt, frozen in the moment the ocean claimed it. As the camera approaches, the first thing we see is the collapsed roof structure, tangled like broken ribs. The front windows, once offering a clear view of the endless Atlantic, are shattered, leaving only jagged edges where glass once stood. Cold water moves silently through the empty frames, like breath in a lifeless body. Inside the wheelhouse, the damage is profound. The wooden flooring has rotted away, replaced by a dark carpet of sediment. Control panels are barely recognizable, corroded into unbroken masses of rust. The ship's wheel, once gripped by the hands of Quartermaster Robert Hitchens as he steered the vessel, is no longer present, believed to have disintegrated long before the wreck was discovered. Yet traces of the officers remain. A fallen telegraph housing leans against the wall, its once polished brass now eaten through by salt. Fragments of navigational instruments lie half-buried in silt, their faces obscured by algae and time. Where voices once barked commands, now only silence answers. The bridge is more than a location. It is the exact spot where Titanic's fate was sealed. Here, First Officer Murdoch issued the order to turn. Here, distress rockets were fired. Here, officers made their final decisions as chaos erupted beneath them. Standing in the remains of the wheelhouse, surrounded by debris that once guided the world's most famous ship, is like standing inside the heartbeat of a giant long since stopped. Every twisted beam, every collapsed panel, every drifting particle of silt is a reminder that this was the last place where control slipped away. And as we drift out of the bridge and into the silent corridors beyond, one truth lingers in the water. This is where the Titanic met her destiny, and nothing has moved here since the night she fell. Our exploration now leads us to one of the most intriguing and historically significant spaces aboard the Titanic, the purser's office, the room that once safeguarded the ship's most valuable possessions. In 1912, this office was the financial heart of the vessel. Here, passengers entrusted their money, jewelry, documents, and personal treasures to the ship's purser, Hugh McElroy. Inside its secure walls rested gold sovereigns, diamond rings, important business papers, family heirlooms, objects holding both monetary and emotional weight. But what remains of this place now lies in eerie silence beneath nearly 4 kilometers of water. As our lights cut through the darkness, the office emerges like a ghost, frozen in rust. The wooden counters that once separated passengers from staff have long collapsed, their surfaces reduced to uneven sheets of silt. Metal filing cabinets lean at unnatural angles, their drawers warped open as though someone tried to escape with their contents during the ship's final moments. Then we see it, a large, shadowed cavity, partially buried in the floor sediment, the space where the purser's safe once stood. The safe itself was recovered decades ago, but the marks left behind tell their own story. Deep indentations where the heavy steel box was bolted to the floor, scratches worn into the planks by countless hands depositing valuables, and the faint outlines of lost paperwork that dissolved into nothingness long ago. Around this empty footprint lie fragments of objects once entrusted to safety. A piece of a lock mechanism, a rusted hinge, the remnants of a money clip, and tiny shards of metal that might have been jewelry or watch components. Every artifact is coated in a fine layer of sediment, as if time itself laid a blanket over the memories contained here. This room once bustled with activity, voices requesting receipts, ink pens scratching across ledgers, the unmistakable metallic thud of the safe door being closed for the night. Now, nothing moves. Only drifting particles swirl slowly in the beam of our lights, turning the water into a dusty archive of everything the sea refused to give back. Standing in the purser's office feels like intruding on private history, stepping into a vault of secrets that were never meant to resurface. And as we back away from the ruined counters and the empty shadow where the safe once rested, the weight of this place settles over us. Here lay the treasures of the Titanic, and none of them were carried home. We now arrive at one of the most haunting and emotionally charged spaces on the Titanic, the first-class lounge, the grand room where elegance once reigned, and where some of the ship's final notes of music were played. In 1912, this lounge was the pride of the ship. Rich mahogany paneling, golden ceiling lamps, luxurious upholstered furniture arranged beneath painted glass windows. Passengers gathered here to read, to converse, to enjoy the soft melodies of the ship's musicians as the Atlantic drifted quietly outside. Today, what remains is a shadow of that beauty, a ruined cathedral of silence. As our lights sweep across the wreck, the once ornate walls appear like dark, fractured sculptures. The mahogany carvings have crumbled into jagged outlines, their details erased by rust and pressure. The elegant columns, once bright and polished, now stand as skeletal frames, weakening more each year. The floor is buried under layers of silt, a soft grey blanket that muffles every sound and movement. Fragments of furniture lie scattered like bones, a chair leg here, a twisted metal support there, each piece a ghost of the room's former grandeur. Along the starboard wall, where musicians once performed for first-class passengers, we find only broken floor tiles and the faint, collapsed outline of where a grand piano once stood. Nothing of the instruments survived, not the polished wood, not the ivory keys, not the gold-plated pedals that once glimmered in lamplight. But the space where it stood carries a weight all its own. This is where violinist Wallace Hartley and his fellow musicians spent their final minutes, playing to calm the passengers even as the ship surrendered to the sea. Their music is long gone, yet the silence here feels almost melodic, as if the walls still remember the final chords that drifted through this room on that cold April night. We move deeper inside. The once bright windows are shattered, their frames torn open by the collapse of the upper decks. Seawater flows in slow, gentle currents through the empty spaces where glass once glittered. Each movement sends particles swirling like dust in a forgotten attic. A fragment of patterned carpet still clings stubbornly to one corner of the room, a tiny piece of luxury refusing to disappear. Nearby, a bent metal reading table remains rooted in place, its legs fused to the floor by rust, its top warped and folded like soft clay. There is an overwhelming quiet here, not just the quiet of the ocean, but the quiet of something sacred. This lounge was a sanctuary in life, and has become a memorial in death. Standing here, it becomes impossible not to imagine the final moments. Passengers listening in fear, musicians playing with trembling hands, the room glowing with soft lamplight for the last time. before everything slid into darkness. Today, the first-class lounge is no longer a place of comfort. It is a monument, a silent chamber holding the last echoes of courage and calm. And as we drift out of the room, one thought lingers in the water. Even in its ruins, this is where the Titanic's heart once sang, and where that heart finally went quiet. Our journey now takes us behind the scenes of Titanic's grandeur, into a place passengers rarely saw, yet relied on every single day. The first-class galley, the main kitchen that fed the most elite travelers of 1912. In its prime, this kitchen was a marvel of organization and craftsmanship. Chefs in white uniforms worked with military precision. Copper pots gleamed under electric light. Ovens burned hot day and night to prepare multi-course meals. Filet mignon, oysters, consommé, roasted squab, and delicate pastries that symbolized the height of culinary luxury at sea. But the galley we see now is almost unrecognizable. As our lights penetrate the darkness, the first shapes to emerge are the massive cooking ranges, their iron frames warped and nearly collapsed under the crushing pressure of the deep. The once bright copper pans are now dull, eaten away by corrosion, resting in strange angles, as if frozen in mid-motion from the final night. The tiled walls, once scrubbed clean by dozens of hands, are cracked and fractured, their surfaces covered in layers of rust, algae, and mineral growth. Where serving counters once displayed silver platters, only scattered debris remains. A fragment of a metal ladle, the rim of a porcelain dish, tiny shards of glass tumbling gently in the current. The floor is thick with silt, burying much of what remains beneath a soft, grey layer. Every step of the camera stirs the sediment, sending clouds drifting upward like smoke in slow motion. We pass what used to be the cold storage door, its thick frame still clinging to the doorway, but its interior collapsed into darkness. Inside, where meat, fruits, and delicacies were once kept chilled with giant blocks of ice, there is now only black water and silence. Along the port side lies a rusted skeleton of a preparation table. Its metal legs are fused to the floor by corrosion, and the top surface has caved in, forming a hollow cradle filled with debris. This table once supported the creation of first-class masterpieces. Today, it is nothing more than a broken relic. We find the remains of another essential feature, the scullery sinks, where dishes from first-class meals were scrubbed and sanitized. Their outlines are still faintly visible, deep metal basins, now filled with nothing but silt and drifting marine snow. It is in this room that the contrast between Titanic's luxury and its fate becomes most stark. In 1912, this kitchen was alive with heat, sound, and motion. The clatter of utensils, the hiss of steam, the call and response of cooks working under pressure. Now, everything is motionless. The heat has vanished. The voices have faded. All that remains is the cold and the weight of a century pressing down on every surface. And as we take one last look at the broken ranges and shattered tiles, a quiet realization settles in. Even the heart that fed the Titanic could not escape the silence of the deep. Our descent continues. It is a frozen echo of a vanished world, a reminder that even the grandest comfort cannot outlast the sea. From here, our journey continues, deeper into the ship and deeper into the mysteries it still holds.